Many of you have heard the story of the tortoise and the hare. For those of you that haven't, the tortoise challenges the hare to a race after being frustrated with the hare bragging about how fast the hare could run. So the race ensues, and the hare gets way out ahead and decides that there's no need to work so hard racing a tortoise, and decides to take a nap. So the tortoise continues on and wins the race. And the lesson of the story is that slow and steady wins the race. So I've been thinking a lot about how embracing the tortoise lifestyle would be beneficial for us in many different ways. But I want to tell you before I get too far into this that I've spent years of my life and hours trying to get faster at things, trying to get faster at running, at biking. So I want to make sure that we separate athletics and activities from our lifestyle. I'd also like to confess to you that I don't do a very good job living the tortoise lifestyle. And I want to. Mightily I want to. So as I talk tonight, I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to you. And as many interviewees might ask an interviewer, or interviewers ask an interviewee, what would you say to your young self if you could go back and talk to your young self? And what I would say is what I'm going to say tonight. I think part of why I got caught up in the Hare lifestyle that we live in the United States is the way I grew up. My dad was a factory worker, and we didn't have much. I wasn't a very strong student, so in school I felt less than. And so as I got older and I started to look at the next success, I feel I have been chasing different elements in my life to prove that I was not less than. So if I could talk to my young self, and here I am, 36 years ago, my first year of teaching, this is my school picture, this is what I'd say. If we would embrace the tortoise lifestyle, I think we would enhance learning. I think we would increase our longevity, and I think we would increase our happiness. I think all of these, if they were increased in our lives, we would all think that that's a pretty good thing. So let's talk about learning. Our brains are amazingly complex. We have about 87 billion neurons, and each one of those neurons can connect with approximately 10,000 other neurons. And the physical connection of neurons from neuron to neuron is what learning is. You create networks as you learn new material. And your brain is changing every single day and rearranging itself, and the architecture changes as you learn new things. But we have to keep in mind that the brain is here for one purpose, and it does it very well, and that's to keep us alive and for survival. And if we are asking the brain to do things that do not have anything to do with survival, it's also very good at not paying attention to it and not learning it. Now we know we can do many things very well that have nothing to do with survival, but in order to do things at a high level, we have to complement the way the brain works and the physiology of our brain. So learning is a slow process, and this graphic represents the way neurons connect with each other with the spindles or the dendritic spines that connect to the next neuron. And three things have to happen in order to learn at a high level. One is that the learner needs to create meaning, and meaning is not understanding. You can understand something very well and utilize that information to complete a task or take a test, and then forget that the next day. Meaning takes time because you need to connect the learning with past learning and with your future goals. And that takes time to reflect. You need to get away from the learning, and you need to think about that, whether you're thinking about it consciously or subconsciously. The next thing you need is practice or rehearsals. And all of us have learned new things, and you know that it takes practice. But in schools, the semantic intellectual knowledge that we teach takes a number of rehearsals or practices. And the number is different depending on the student. It depends on how motivated they are. It depends on how complex the material is. And it depends on how well versed they are in this type of learning. But I can tell you that the number of rehearsals that students need to truly learn deeply the material that we teach is far greater than the time they have to rehearse. And the third thing we need is sleep. And a lot of things happen during sleep. During your non-REM cycle, deep sleep, you're constantly stimulating these neural networks. And when you stimulate these networks, you stimulate the machinery of the neurons to create more neurotransmitters and to create more receptors and to truly cement the neurons together. During your REM cycle sleep, you're doing a number of things, connecting the parts of the brain that don't normally talk to each other. And so the creativity and problem solving comes into play as you're going through your REM cycle. And also it's the reason why your dreams are sometimes very odd and convoluted. But you need to go through a number of sleep cycles in order to have that true learning happen. And what takes place in schools today doesn't complement our physiology or the way the brain works. If we did complement and we slowed down and embraced the tortoise lifestyle as far as learning, we do a couple things. One, we would reduce the amount of curriculum that we teach. We'd go much deeper into what we are teaching, and the learners could go deeper, so it would be rigorous. We'd be able to apply that learning to new and novel ways. We'd be able to creatively use the learning in different ways. All of the things that we talk about that we need in today's world, in the world of work, and that we'll need in the years to come. The other thing we would do is we would change our calendar. We'd get away from the 9-month school year. We would spread vacations out throughout the year to give students a chance to reflect, to get away from the learning, and to also sleep deeply. And the final thing we would do, because sleep is so important, is we would start schools later. Because unfortunately or fortunately, the way things work is that adolescents have a different sleep pattern than adults. Their circadian rhythm is different. The sleep pressure that builds up and puts us to sleep happens much later for teens and adolescents. So where an adult might go to sleep at 10 o'clock, a teen might not get tired and the sleep pressure might not be there for 1, 2, and 3 hours later. So they are getting up early to go to school and missing 3 and 4 cycles of sleep. So they come to school sleep deprived and learning deprived because they haven't been able to go through the complete sleep that they need, the cycles. And then we haven't had enough rehearsal. So all of these couple in to make us run faster throughout the school year and teach the Hare lifestyle instead of the Tortoise lifestyle. Now let's look at longevity. In 2000, this is data from the World Health Organization of the top 10 longest lived countries. Japan is number 1 with an aggregate longevity of 81.3 years. Now I say aggregate because females tend to live longer than males, so this is aggregate data. The United States is 28th in 2000 with a life expectancy of 76.9 years. So 16 years later, in 2016, here's the data, the top 10 longest lived countries. Japan is still number 1 with a lifespan expectancy of 84.2 years. We in the United States have dropped from 28 to 34. And what's more alarming is that we have only increased our lifespan in 16 years, 1.6 years, where the top 10 longest lived countries have increased their longevity by an average of 3.84 years. Now, how can that be? We have an amazing medical organization in this country. We know how to proactively keep ourselves healthy. We have access to high-quality foods, and we understand what we should eat to maintain good health. We have parks and recreational areas and fitness clubs, and we know about exercise and what we should be doing to keep ourselves healthy. How can we be going backwards and really losing pace with many countries around the world? What I believe is causing this and helps with this data showing up the way it does is the 24-hour lifestyle that we live, always being plugged in. We're constantly connected to our smartphones and our computers. As adults, we come home from work and we work. We pride ourselves in working after work and working well into the evening and then not sleeping as long as we need to sleep. As adults, we need a full 8 hours of sleep every night, regardless of the fact that you can function with less. But one of the problems without sleeping enough is that we compromise our immune systems. So even within the first year or first week, I should say, that you haven't slept enough, your immune system is compromised. And so you start to run the risk of having problems of the simplest things that our immune system does, like ridding us of invaders that might cause infections, all the way up to the complex things and diseases such as cancer. We need a robust immune system to be able to ferret out the cells that have started to mutate and go rogue and get rid of them before they turn into cancerous tumors. The other thing that happens during sleep is we have another set of cells called glial cells that are the support cells for the neurons. And during our sleep cycles, they are ridding the brain of the debris that built up during the day, the proteins and the plaque type materials that show up when people develop dementia and Alzheimer's. Now, I'm not saying that if you don't sleep enough, you are going to have these type of dreadful diseases or dementia. But we do know that without sleeping as much as we need to, our brain is not at 100%. So we're compromising. So I believe that that causes issues for us. We need to figure out a way that we work hard at work, and then we go home and we forget about work. We need to have time so we can enjoy activities that are helpful for our health, but also for our well-being. So let's look at happiness. This is the 2019 World Happiness Report and the 10 happiest countries on their index. And we are 19th by the index, and you can see also the 2016 longevity figures. And we dropped actually a few places from last year's study. Again, what might be causing this? I think, again, it's the pace of our lives, that we are living as the hare lives and running faster. So we don't have a chance to unplug. We don't have a chance to do the things that are fun. We don't have a chance to spend time with our loved ones and the people we care about. And think about when you are under pressure to get things done and you don't think you're going to be able to do that. How do you feel and where is your happiness? And if you think about next week, if all of you could leave here and you'd have nothing you were responsible for a full week and you could do anything you want, what that might do to your happiness. Well, I think we have to figure out ways that we do that. We have to get away from work, get away from school. The other thing that happens if we're constantly plugged in is that we are going to sleep under the flight or fight cascade of things that happen in your body. We have more adrenaline than we should. We have the cortisol levels that are up, especially if we're under stress. And for kids, since they're constantly plugged into social media and students, if we have some emotional thing that happens during the day, they're constantly reliving that on social media, and they're going to sleep late, and as I said, not sleeping as long as they need to, and they're going to sleep and not getting the restful sleep that they need. So sleep is important. This is my grandson. He does it really well, and I think we need to take a lesson from babies on how to sleep well. We also have to find our areas where we can recharge every single day, where you feel calm, your happy place, so to speak. And we should work hard, we should play hard, and we should sleep hard. And I believe that all of this would be enhanced if we embraced the tortoise lifestyle versus the hare lifestyle. So I'll leave you with this. The average lifespan of a tortoise is 75 to 100 years. And the average lifespan of a hare is 5 to 7 years. So I know which one I hope that I can copy. Thank you.